Thoreau wrote, "I never found the companion that was so companionable as solitude." And people think he went to the woods to be alone, to be a hermit. That's not what he did at all. He went to choose his company deliberately. He still engaged with people. He had visitors. He went to town to socialize, to meet people, but he did it on his own terms. Now, most people today are never alone, but they're also never really connected. Constant company with zero depth. Everything's done through a screen. There's no human element anymore. This month on Living Walden, solitude and visitors, the balance between being alone and being with others, and why most people get both wrong. Now, last month in the Living Walden series, we talked about input determines output. What you consume shapes what you create. This month, we're talking about who you spend time with shapes who you become. Your net worth is the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. You could lay that metric across health, across your relationships with your family, whatever you want. The people that you're around are going to shape you more than almost anything in your life. That's your peer group. I've looked for various groups when I was active in investing in real estate. I found a group that was really good at that and joined them. And just by being around them and getting to know those people, I got to become a really good real estate investor. But without that, wouldn't have happened. So we're looking at what do you want in your life and how do you surround yourself with the people that are going to help you to get there. And also, if you did last month's challenge, either cutting one information source for the entire month or going on a total social media fast for the entire month, what changed? What was your experience? How did you feel? Was there like a detox period off the top where you felt, wow, this is too much, I can't do this? Or was it like, wow, I actually can think for myself and I can focus on things that I want to focus on? What was your experience of that? I'd love to hear that in the comments if you're willing to share. And if not, please track it and take notes for yourself. And if you haven't watched that episode, please do check that out, because the Thoreau's media diet is a huge challenge that can have an enormous effect on your life, a positive effect. If you get up in the morning and you're automatically consumed by the news feed or the sports feed or social media or any of that stuff, your attention is being co-opted and it's gone for the rest of the day. So if you can not do that stuff first thing in the morning and not get sucked into it at all during the day, that focus belongs to you. And it is amazing what you can do in your own life when you control your focus. So in chapter 5, Solitude, Thoreau said he valued being alone, but not isolation. In chapter 6, Visitors, he welcomed guests and meaningful conversations. The point wasn't to avoid people, it was to choose them deliberately. He was very deliberate about how he spent his time and with whom. There's a huge lesson in that. I think it's more valuable today than it ever has been in the past. Are you deliberately choosing the people you're spending your time with? And if not, how much more would you enjoy your life if you did deliberately start choosing people to hang out with, to exchange meaningful conversations with? People think Walden was about leaving society and going and living in the woods like a hermit. That's not what he was doing. He wasn't cutting everybody off. He had visitors. He still engaged with people, but on his own terms. He chose when, who, and why, and for how long. And when he was done, he could just go back to his cabin in the woods and enjoy time alone. Contrast that with today, of constant low-level connection, with zero intentionality, so many distractions, so many just small talk conversations that don't have any content in them. They don't move your life forward. They don't add anything to anybody's life. The big difference down here in South America too, like people, when they ask you how you're doing, they don't want to hear fine. They want you to tell them how are your kids, how's your family, what's going on in your life, how's your neighborhood, everything. You see somebody in the market, they don't just say, oh, hey, hi, yeah, great to see you next week, like it would be in the West. Here, like that could be a half-hour conversation. And they take the time to enjoy the time with their community, their family, their friends. It's a beautiful thing, and you can see the difference in the quality of their life. Now, you're never really alone, especially if you have a phone with you and screen, something's always buzzing and vying for your attention. Here's a notification. Oh, here's what's happening on Instagram or Facebook or LinkedIn or name your platform. You're also never truly present because your focus is being constantly pulled in other directions. If you can turn off the screen like we talked about last time with the media diet and focus on being with the people that you're with. How many times you go to a restaurant or a cafe or anywhere and you see a group of people, could be a family, could be a group of friends, and they're all buried in their phones, sitting there at the same table, completely ignoring each other. Why would you go out with anybody, anywhere, if you're not going to interact with them, have a meaningful conversation, or at least some kind of mutual enjoyment? What's the point? Now, loneliness is feeling disconnected even when you're surrounded by other people. Solitude is choosing to be alone, to think, to create, to recharge. Those are two very different things. People conflate the two all the time. They avoid being alone because they think it's loneliness. I'm wired exactly the opposite way. I understand what Thoreau did and why. A lot of the things I do are solo pursuits. I go kayaking when I'm back in Canada alone. Yoga and meditation, journaling, things like that, I always do alone. So I carve out periods of time every day to do these things, to be alone with my thoughts. And it really enhances the quality of my thinking and the quality of my life. I highly recommend it to everybody. Thoreau was way ahead of the curve on this one. But if you can't like being alone, like Wayne Dyer used to always say, you can only be lonely if you don't like the person you are alone with. If you're comfortable in your own skin, having time alone, for me, it's intoxicating. There's nothing better for me. But if you can't do that, you will never feel comfortable in your body, in your head, in yourself. I also get solitude, for example. I'll walk to the Mirador. It's maybe 10 or 15 minutes from the house, the lookout point. I'll take a journal, and I have time to think each way. So I think about what I want to write about, and then when I get there, take out the journal, write some stuff, and then when I come back, another 10 or 15 minutes to think what I wrote about. Okay, I'd refine this, I want to add this, I want to modify this other part. And I get my thoughts to paper, and it's very clean and crisp, and it's very actionable by the time I'm done. So solitude, for me, always reveals what the noise and the static have been covering up. Now, if you can't be alone with yourself, you'll accept any company to avoid that state. That's not a great place to be. Bad relationships, shallow friendships, time-wasting connections, noodling on your phone, none of those things are productive, and they're not going to make your life any better. Thoreau's test. Can you sit with yourself for an hour and not reach for distraction? I'm not going to suggest an hour. I'm going to say 10 to 15 minutes to start, because an hour will feel like an eternity. 10 to 15 minutes will feel long. So little things like that. Carve out those pieces of time every day, 10 to 15 minutes, to enjoy something that you like doing, either on your own or with your pet, with no distractions, and see what a difference that makes in your life. Now, Thoreau had visitors, but they were meaningful ones. Conversations that mattered. People who challenged him. Exchanges that left both parties better. Try having a conversation like that today with somebody. As soon as you express a different belief, especially politically, all of a sudden you're labeled as a racist or a misogynist or a Nazi or worse. Why not sit down with somebody and ask them, somebody who thinks differently than you do for whatever reason, ask them why they think that way without judgment, and have a conversation so you can reach an understanding instead of just labeling them with epithets and ad hominem attacks. It's not helpful. The modern trap is that we have so many connections, but there's no human interaction. Oh, how many people are on my Instagram feed, or how many followers do I have on YouTube, or whatever. Like, does that really matter? Is that enhancing your life in any way? Why not sit down face to face with somebody and have a conversation about something meaningful to you and to them? I was a volunteer here on the farm. We have a much more limited universe. I have access to the internet. I can go online and do that stuff, but things move more slowly here. But when there are other volunteers here, at the end of the day, we usually hang out in the outdoor kitchen dining area and just talk about stuff, or maybe sometimes card games or board games or whatever. I'm not a huge fan of that. I'd rather hang out and just have a discussion with somebody about life, about your plans, about your experiences of traveling. And just before I left the farm, I had some really deep conversations about life and health and loss and death and like a bunch of really heavy stuff with somebody, another volunteer here, who I just met. And that's rare. I haven't had a conversation like that with somebody in a long time, and it made me realize how important it is and how meaningful that continues to be in my life. It's still affecting me to this day in very positive ways. And some of those weren't comfortable conversations. We talked about really dark and personal stuff. But at the end of it, you realize nothing can replace that human connection. When I went to Canada to visit and reconnect with friends and family, I made sure that we sat down and I let these people know I carved out the time to come and see you because you're important. We have roots that go back decades. Those connections with real people, friends that I've had for long, long periods of time and sometimes lost contact with over the years, rekindling those connections was hugely helpful. And I'm kind of missing them now that I'm down here, but I'm also finding ways that I can keep in touch with people and not sending out social media blasts, but individually contacting people, making time to have a WhatsApp conversation or a chat exchange or something just to keep those connections active. Hugely important, and way more important than, hey, look how great I am on Instagram. And before I came down to Ecuador in 2022, I had a test. I looked at the people in my life, my social circle. People had been there 30 plus, 40 plus years in some cases, and I just asked myself one simple question. I think Thoreau would approve of this. And the question was, if I met this person today, would I want to hang out with them? And if not, why are they still in my life? If we met 40 years ago, I can guarantee we were definitely different people at that time. And is that connection still valid? Has it grown closer? Has it grown further apart? And why do I have these people in my life? So I cleaned house. So this is another thing to really look at the people that you're hanging out with. Are they people that you would choose to hang out with? Or would you be better served to look and find people that are a better fit for who you are at this point in your life? Take the time to do that. I'm all about maintaining connections to my roots, but those roots need to be deep and strong, and they need to be valid still today. Your time is finite. Your attention is limited. Choose who gets it and why. Protect your time and protect who you spend it with. Invest your time wisely in relationships with people that enhance your life and whose lives are enhanced by having you in it as well. This month's challenge to balance solitude and connection. So easy mode, tier 1. Say schedule 15 minutes of alone time this week. Just 1 or 2 times, just so you can see what it feels like. No phone, no screen, no music, no TV, no distractions of any kind, just you. That could be going for a walk, that could be journaling, that could be meditating, doing some kind of exercise, just you with no other distractions. Just be alone with yourself and see what that feels like. And track what comes up. Is it comfortable? Is it uncomfortable? Does your mind wander? Are you thinking this is a waste of time? I could be doing all these other things. Force yourself to sit there for 15 minutes just so you can see what it feels like. And then see if you can relax into it. Realize you don't need to be constantly doing things or scrolling or being distracted. Just focus on what it feels like to be with your thoughts and enjoy time alone. Now, tier 2, hard mode. Let's say 15 minutes of solitude per day for 30 days. That's a big challenge. And you might want to start smaller, maybe 5 or 10 minutes and build up to 15. See if you can carve that out every day at 8 p.m. instead of watching TV or what I usually do. I'm going to make time to sit down and just sit with my thoughts, or make time to journal or meditate or whatever it is that you choose to do. Go for a walk. And add to that 1 deep conversation per week with somebody important to you. It could be somebody in your family. It could be a close friend. Just make sure you have human connection. Talk about life. Talk about family. Talk about things that are important to you. What is important to you in your life, and how can you share those ideas with somebody close to you? And notice, does the quality of your thinking change? And do your relationships deepen? Track that and see how you feel. These are not easy. Neither of these, tier 1 or tier 2, are easy, but take them on. Challenge yourself. See how you feel after doing them. So Thoreau wrote, "I never found the companion that was so companionable as solitude." He also wrote, "I had 3 chairs in my home. 1 for solitude, 2 for friendship, 3 for society." They all matter. Solitude to think, friendship to connect, and society to engage. Now the question is, are you choosing deliberately, or are you just going with the flow? You're just killing time. Being alone well is better than being around people that you don't feel at home with badly. So here's what I want you to think about. When was the last time you were truly alone? No phone, no screen, no distraction, not small talk, not catching up, but a real exchange of ideas. And when was the last time you had a conversation that actually mattered? If you can't answer both of those questions, You're getting neither solitude nor connection right now. You're just busy. You're going through the motions. But make time for the important people in your life. Have meaningful conversations about things that are important to you and to them, and let them know that they are an important part of your life. You can spend time on your screens anytime, but our time with each other is finite. Make sure you're choosing how you spend your time and with whom very, very carefully. So, next month, the bean field, the joy of purposeful labor. Thoreau planted beans, not because he needed the money, because meaningful work that you do, for example, with your hands in the soil, and you get to see the results immediately or over time in the case of a harvest, really matters. Now, so far in Living Walden, we've talked about removal, economy, environment, input, relationships. Next month, work that matters. Until then, find your balance. Solitude and visitors, both of those, deliberately. Live deliberately. See you next month.